Hello and welcome. I am Scrapperlock, and this is really fun. I originally created an intro video with this character, Silver Phoenix, who, as you can see, is a level 1 natural martial arts super reflex scrapper. And Silver Phoenix was a character I took through the tutorial. I did like a 40-minute video and found out that I didn't have the audio on, so I went back and I created another intro video with States Girl, which you may have seen. Then I did a tutorial with States Girl, and then I went into the game and I played Silver Phoenix for a bunch of 30 or 40-minute episodes to level 9. I did this on the Excelsior server, which was the second server of the privately run servers to come up. However, the first two servers, Torchbearer and Excelsior, were experiencing massive amounts of server load, and so they created two new servers, Indomitable and Everlasting, and I had no intention of moving servers. I was happy with my level 9 Silver Phoenix, and I was really happy to get her out of the baby levels. And unfortunately, I'm also a role player, and the roleplay community has sort of decided to gravitate toward Everlasting. And I think they chose that because it's a less crowded server and they wanted less queue time, lower queue times and things like that. And so I've recreated her, and we're level 1 and I'm in the tutorial, so you're probably not going to have seen the original tutorial because I'm going to go do it over with my real character, Silver Phoenix. So this is Silver Phoenix, and I'm going to read out her origin. Once each generation, Yang the Dragon and Yin the Phoenix impart to one worthy son or daughter of China the true knowledge of the Tao. This knowledge allows the recipient to harness the full powers of Qi, the breath of the world, which is generated by the Tao. At the age of 16, Lin Zhao received this blessing after she risked her life to save a drowning boy. Having deemed her worthy, Yang and Yin granted her true knowledge of the Tao, which allows her to see and manipulate the breath of the world, giving her formidable prowess in the martial arts. Choosing the name Silver Phoenix to honor one of her patrons, Zhao has sallied forth from her home in Tianjin to join the heroes of Paragon City and fight the forces of evil. So here we are in the game City of Heroes. I'm just going to zoom in to reset the camera. And I'm in the tutorial. I've moved off to the side because, as you can see, these blue names, these are other players, and they tend to come into the zone and immediately start playing around with their new superpowers, and it causes a lot of spam and a lot of noise, and I just wanted to be somewhere quiet so that I could talk a little bit and explain what's going on. So I'm going to actually take you through the tutorial. I've been through this many times because I've actually tried recording this several times, both with this character and States Girl, but hopefully I've done it enough that I'm going to get a little bit more efficient about it. I'm going to try to keep this video under 30 minutes if I possibly can, and get through the tutorial as quickly as possible. But there are some things I want to talk about. My goal with these videos is to have fun, to record them for myself, so that if City of Heroes ever goes belly up again, I can watch the videos and at least reminisce and enjoy, but also to record them and potentially have a small audience of people who may want to know a little bit more about the way the game works than you can find from simple help files. It's a lot harder to get help now than it was when the game was officially out. I know there are thousands of people who know how to play probably better than I do, and I don't expect any of them to learn anything from this. But if you're new to the game, or if you came into the game in 2010 and you weren't there for the launch, I know a lot because I started in closed beta, and so I'm going to provide a little bit of a historical perspective on how things work. So let's start with the user interface. I've played around with this a little bit. You start with a couple of default channels. I have made some more, default tabs. I've made some more. And the way this works is you can put tabs either above or below the bar, and you can, if it's up here, then the chat appears up here, so you can see the help channel, the looking for group channel. And if it's down here, for instance, I can type in local, and you can see that local comes out as a chat bubble, text bubble like a comic book, but also appears here. Right now it didn't appear here because if you edit this tab, I do not have local set. The chat tab here is for coalition chat, private messages, supergroup chat, and team chat. I consider those to be out of character, and then the roleplay channel has all the in-character channels, which right now is just emotes and chat. Speaking of emotes, you can do lots of emotes. You can either select them from this thing here, right? Or you can type them. So one of my favorite is the semicolon laptop emote. And when you do that, your character starts typing on a laptop, which is pretty darn cool. And she'll stop as soon as you move. So anyway, there's a bunch of chat tabs. I've separated out all of the NPC chat to one tab, so cutscenes and stuff will all appear here. The rewards, this is going to be experience, goes here. Combat and system messages here. The help channel is here, and the global channels are there. And the Sunrise is a global channel that role players on the Sunrise Discord use. I haven't seen anybody chatting on it yet, but maybe we will. So so that's the way the chat window works. Everything in the UI is customizable, which is really nice. Down here is our tray that has our powers. If you click the powers list, you'll see all of your powers. The ones that are bright are ones we own, and the ones that are grayed out we don't have yet. There are 3 power types. There are martial art. There's your primary power, which is martial arts for us. There's secondary power, which is super reflex, and then the pool and inherent powers, which are here. So everybody gets a prestige attack when they start. In the case of a natural character, it's throwing knives, which is great for a martial artist. It's totally appropriate. Everybody gets certain inherent powers. Brawl is a simple punch. I have it down here. Prestige power slide I hate, so I took it off the bar. Sprint is here. Prestige power slide is just a different, I'll show you, it's just a different type of sprint. So you do this. I don't like it, at least for this character. It's totally inappropriate because she's a natural character. You can right click and remove any power from the tray. And then there are 4 inherent powers that we will get as soon as we finish the tutorial, called Inherent Fitness. Fitness used to be a pool power that you had to choose. I would take these powers in the first 20 levels. Pool powers open up at level 6. So at level 6 you had to take either Swift or Hurdle if you wanted fitness. Then you would take health at level 14 and stamina at level 20. Now you get them automatically, and they did that because most players were taking fitness and they realized, well, we may as well just give it to everybody, which means we'll get 3 more power picks than I got back when I was originally playing the game. We also have this tray here, which is inspirations, and I'll talk about that later. But this is our power tray, and it has all the powers. You have up to 9 trays, and you can display them by just clicking on these arrows here. So down here I keep my attacks, and up here I keep movement and defenses. You can also have a 3rd tray if you want. When the game launched, there were only 2 trays possible, but later they updated it to allow 3 trays. I don't need 3 trays in this area, so I only have 2, but I do like to click this plus, bring up a new tray, set it to number 3, and then with this one you can resize it to whatever you want. I make it vertical and put it over here. Ultimately, my powers that are defenses, that are toggles, I'm going to put up here. So let me explain that. A toggle is a power that once you turn it on, it stays on. So this is called focused fighting, and if we click on the info, you can see that focused fighting does certain things. It adds, this is very confusing, so let me explain what it means. It adds 13.88% strength to melee. Now this makes it sound like it increases your melee strength. It's not what it does. It's melee defense. Right, it says it up here, plus defense against melee. So what defense does is it allows you to avoid attacks. So by default, enemies that are your level, that are the weak ones, have about a 50% chance to hit you. So if my defense is 14%, it's 50 minus 14, so they have a 36% chance to hit me. Down here I have my attack powers, and if we look at Thunder Kick, right, this is my only martial arts attack right now. It does 8 damage, 8.61 damage on average per hit. And then how long it takes to activate, and how long it damages, how long it takes to damage, and so on and so forth. So that's all down here. So what we're going to do is we're going to go through the tutorial, and I'm going to try to explain things as we go. This is sprint. It'll make us run faster. I'm going to turn this off. So the way toggles work is when it's on, I have that extra defense, and when it's off, I don't. When it's on, it costs endurance. I'm not going to use it right now because I don't need it, and it costs endurance. So we're going to walk up, and the first thing you're supposed to do is talk to this guy, Officer Flint. And I don't know why it didn't have him listed as a contact, but when you log in, it should have a little arrow next to him. Anyway, we talked to Officer Flint, and he says that we have a crisis going on here, and we need help. We need help desperately. Some thugs took an experimental drug thinking it was something else, and now they're trashing the area. we have to regain control. So we ask him what missions he has, and this is the way you do contacts. And he says we have to go to Dr. Miller. This cop we're talking to has a blood sample, and we have to take it to Dr. Miller. As you can tell, I've already memorized this tutorial. So what he really wants us to do is learn how to use the compass. So we get a clue. Your clues are up here. And he says, I've got a blood sample that has to be delivered to Dr. Miller. We also have a map. And what I like to do with the map is this little blue button lets you sort of detach windows. And I move it over here. And I resize it. And I just leave it there so that I can see where I am. And you can zoom the map in and out. And one of the things you'll see is as we walk over the map, it sort of reveals more of the map. So the map is dark gray, and then when we move over it, it becomes lighter and brighter because we have now revealed that part of the map. Alright, so he wants us to go to this contact, which is down here, and if you look on your compass, it's here. And if you look on your regular view screen, it's right there. The game uses yards and feet instead of metrics because it's the United States and we use yards and feet here. So we're going to head forward. So W is forward, S is back. One of the things I do is I don't like to use the side keys A and D, right? Instead, I prefer using W and just turning with the mouse. Hopefully that won't annoy people, but that's just how I like to do it. So here's our first contact, Dr. Miller. And we click on him, and he says, thank you, I'll begin research immediately. And then he tells us to talk to click on this information kiosk. So we go to the information kiosk, and the information kiosk explains to us that this is a hospital, and if we die, we will come back to the hospital and respawn here. So this is a medical center. It's called Rivera Medical Center, and if you click on this door, you can go inside. Now, we haven't died, so this is all we can do. But when you die, you end up upstairs in what's like kind of a Bacta tank from Star Wars. You come down the elevator, and you come back out, and you go outside. Once we're back in the world, then we can continue our quest. So what we have to do is now go back to Officer Flint, and you can see him on the compass. He's there 112 yards away, so we're going to run back to Officer Flint. And this is how you do quests in City of Heroes. You talk to your contacts, and then you find out what they want, and they send you on missions. So he says, good job, and he tells us how to use the compass and the map, and then he says, go meet a new contact, and our new contact is Officer Parks. Officer Parks is 360 yards this way. So now I'm going to head to Officer Parks, and I'm going to talk to him. And this is where the game is going to teach us how to use our powers. So I actually really like this game. I think the graphics hold up pretty darn well for a game that was made 15 years ago. It looks quite nice, and it's still got nice shadows and everything on the ground. I really enjoy it. I think it looks fantastic. Alright, so Officer Parks then tells us that this is our power tray and how we can drag powers from here into the tray like this. You can put them anywhere you want, and so we've already seen how to do that. And then he says to talk to Professor Hoffman and Lieutenant McReady. And I love that his name is McReady. Oh, I do want to mention, you see these drones here, police drones. So these things have beams where they basically delete bad guys. The idea is if you look over here where these heroes are running, there are bad guys over here. And so they have these drones here. In case somebody drags bad guys back following them, the drones will delete them so that new players don't get killed. And you see these police drones around most hospitals, train stations and everything. Anywhere where newbies may congregate or people might be talking to contacts and not be ready to be attacked, they have police drones there so that you don't just get blindsided. So Professor Hoffman is going to tell us about the con system. So what the game does is it uses colors on the names of things, and so you can see when you click on something, the information is over here. The name is up top. In angle brackets is the faction. So this is the practice robot faction. On this side is the rank, and on this side is the level. This is a level 2 practice bot. And so here they tell us that when you con something, it tells you the difficulty. Now in most MMOs, a white con is something equal in power to you, and that's what this game means too. But in most MMOs, at least at the time of City of Heroes, a single white enemy was equal to you. But in City of Heroes, they wanted you to feel like a superhero. So the way they worked the balance was that instead of a single enemy, white enemy, being equal to you, 3 white con enemies of the rank over here, minion, are equal to a single superhero. If something is blue, that means it's 1 level below you and weaker than you. If it's green, that means it's 2 levels below, and gray is 3 levels below. So white is a reasonable risk, blue is easy, green is super easy, gray is so easy you don't get any experience. Now going the other direction, if you see a yellow name up here, that means it's a level above you and is slightly more dangerous. If you see an orange one, you're getting sort of, orange alert, right? Yellow alert, orange alert, red alert, right? As we go from yellow to orange to red to purple, they're getting more powerful. Something red is 3 levels above you. That's going to be very hard to fight. Something purple is 4 or more levels above you. Now, the other thing they tell you is that there are ranks. The ranks go minion, white con is equal to you. Lieutenant, a lieutenant of the same level as you would con yellow. A lieutenant is going to be conned as 1 level higher than his actual level. So a level 1 lieutenant is the same as a level 2 minion because they're more powerful. And a single yellow lieutenant is about enough for 1 hero to handle, at least at low levels. A boss is 2 ranks above a minion, so he cons is 2 levels over. And an elite boss cons is 3 levels over, and an archvillain cons is 4 levels over because they're really powerful. So if you're level 10, a 10th level archvillain would con as if he's a level 14 minion. And believe me, they're way more powerful than a level 14. They're quite dangerous. So that's the way conning works. And now we're going to go to Lieutenant McReady. And Lieutenant McReady is going to tell us that we can either click or press numbers with our powers. Now, I am a mouse clicker, so if anybody hates that, you just don't watch. So we have several attacks. We have Thunder Kick, we have Brawl, and we have Throwing Knives. Throwing Knives is a range attack. Now, there's some nice things about City of Heroes. One thing I like about it is if you are out of range and you press an attack, in most games it'll say out of range and the attack will just cancel. Like that, right? But in City of Heroes, if you're out of range and you click and you run into range, as soon as you hit the range, it will attack for you. This is true of melee as well. As soon as you get close enough, you will attack, which is quite nice. The other thing I love about City of Heroes is that powers can queue up, and so I hit Thunder Kick, and while Thunder Kick is going, I can hit Brawl. Let me show that again, I didn't do it right. Thunder Kick is animating, I can hit Brawl. While Brawl is animating, I can hit Throwing Knives. What you'll notice about this game is it doesn't have a global cooldown. The global cooldown hadn't been invented yet, I think. I'm not sure if it was World of Warcraft or what that invented the global cooldown. Everybody's got it now, but in City of Heroes, they didn't have it. And so the idea is that in a game with a global cooldown, if I press Thunder Kick, while it's going, all of these other powers would cycle, and you wouldn't be able to use them. But in City of Heroes, they don't. So you can hit this, and that, and you queue them up, and they fire as soon as they're ready, which is wonderful. So as you'll notice, when you use a power, it shrinks and turns gray, or faded, and then when it's ready, it's back to full size, and it's full color. So that's the way that works. I'm going to go back to Sprint. We've now finished this. I'm going to go talk to Officer Parks, and he's going to say, go beat up to... basically use what you know now to go beat up to Contaminated, and this is going to be really fun to find them because so I want to show, let's see, he's a minion, he's the Contaminated faction, and he's level 1, right? And he's white con, so we can take on 2 or 3 of them at a time. So here's 2 of them, and I'll just show you how this works. I'm going to turn off Sprint, and we'll go nice and slow. Throwing Knife, and then we move in, and we use Thunder Kick. Another thing I like about this game, by the way, is a lot of MMOs, if you're not facing toward the enemy and you press an attack, it'll say you're not facing. But in City of Heroes, if you press an attack, it will turn you. And it also turns the camera, which I absolutely love. So the camera's always behind you and you're always facing your target. It's super, cool. I absolutely love this. I wish more MMOs would do it. It's my favorite way to have the control system in an MMO work. Alright, so that we've defeated 2 contaminated thugs, and now we're going to talk to Officer Parks, and he's going to now tell us about experience and about hit points and endurance. So the green bar up here is your health. Our health right now is 92 of 105 because I was letting that thug hit me while I was talking. Our endurance max is always out at 100. You can never get over that, at least not under normal circumstances. And so when the endurance drains down to 0, all of your powers turn off and you can't use any powers until you get more endurance back. When your health gets down to 0, you go unconscious and you get teleported to the hospital, or somebody's got to wake you up. The pink bar is your experience. When the experience bar gets full, you get 1 bead, right? And you see how there are beads here? And there are actually 10 beads all the way around. So each time the experience bar fills up, you get a bead. When you fill up 10 beads, you gain a level. And so that's how that works. Alright, so he's now sent us to another contact. Whoops. And this contact is going to tell us about inspirations, which is this tray here. So we're going to head to this contact. And this is Sergeant Hicks. And Sergeant Hicks tells us about inspiration. So this tray here is inspirations. I am going to just quickly accept this and run away because everybody's making noise over there because they level up with him, and so it's going to be impossible to talk over them because I won't be able to hear anything. Alright, so inspirations. These can be dragged and dropped anywhere. You can hit the F1, F2, F3 keys to activate them, or you click on them, which is what I usually do. And eventually we'll have a whole tray of inspirations. It's like 20 slots, but for now they only give you 3. These are like potions. You click on them and they're single use, and if it's health, it'll just heal you up. If it's this is like extra damage, so it does 50% more damage, and so it'll increase. Remember, our martial arts does about 9 damage a hit. It'll go up to about 13 damage a hit. It'll only last a little while. In the info, it says it lasts for... Where does it say? It doesn't tell me how long it lasts. Huh. I think they last 30 seconds, and then they wear off. Now, if it's health, it just adds to your hit points, and then it's done. So there's lots of different kinds of inspirations. You can get lucky, which increases your dodging ability, your defense. You can get sturdy, which increases your resistance to damage. You can get all kinds of different buffs in here, and they're temporary. Alright. So he wants us to defeat 4 thugs using inspirations. And you don't actually have to use the inspirations. And it looks like they fixed the spawning here, because the last time I came through here, there were almost no thugs on this street. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and use an inspiration so we can see the increased damage. So now we've got the buff, and it ends up here. And we attack. And see, now we're doing much more damage. And we'll just get away from these guys, because they're... I'm trying to just sort of show how this works. So you see that single knife throw defeated that guy because he's because we're doing extra damage right now. Now, one of the problems and one of the reasons why people are going crazy beating these guys up is that if you beat 100 of them, you get a badge. And so some people are trying to get the badge that you get for beating up 100 of them. I'm not going to worry about that badge right now. I've already done it on like 3 other characters, so I'm just not going to worry about it. So we've defeated our 4 contaminated, and now we're going to go back to our contact. You may be wondering why I keep turning sprint off. Well, let's take this guy up before he... Oh wait, there it is! You see what the police drones do? And that's to prevent someone from dragging this guy. Right? That guy was following someone who came out here, and they don't want him to drag the guy out here because you're going to have newbies out here trying to talk to these contacts, and they could get killed. So the police drones are there to stop it. Now that person, you hear that noise, leveled up, and we're going to level up too. So back to what I was saying with sprint, why do I keep turning it off? Well, there's a couple of reasons. One is that it drains endurance. See how our endurance bar keeps coming down and going back, coming down and going back, coming down and going back. Sprint drains 0.29 endurance per second. May not sound like a lot, but this drains 0.26 per second, and if we have 3 or 4 defense toggles and sprint and movement toggles all on, we're going to be draining 2 or 3 endurance a second, and you will run out of endurance very fast. because I think the recovery rate is only about 1 a second. So I never leave, just as a habit, I never leave sprint on unless I need it. Also, later in the game, we're going to get quickness with this character because it's super reflexes. We're going to get some other buffs. We're going to run so fast without sprint that we'll be faster than normal characters with sprint. Alright, so we've now leveled up. We've gained a level. And they've given us an enhancement, so this gives me an opportunity to talk about enhancements. And he wants me to come over here to learn about enhancements. And this thing talks about enhancements, but I'm going to close this. I'm going to move aside again, and I'm going to show you how enhancements work. And let's see, how long has this been? Alright, so we don't have too much more time, but I'm going to show you how enhancements work. So this is the enhancement screen. And you can have, this is new to me, because when I was playing, you only had this page. But there are now up to 7 pages of enhancements that you can carry in your inventory, which is a lot. What enhancements do is they improve your powers. So over here we have Thunder Kick, Focus Fighting, and then we have our inherent powers. Eventually fitness will appear down here, but we got to be level 2 first. So each power comes with a socket that you can slot an enhancement into. So there's one here, and there's one here. There's one here. Okay. Now, as you level up, you can add sockets to whatever powers you want. You get about 2 every other level, and so you can add one to Thunder Kick, you can add one to Focus Fighting, etc. I never add sockets to these powers because you don't need them. It's just a waste. You have to be very careful with your enhancement sockets early on because enhancement slots only come a couple per 2 levels, and you're going to get so many powers and you're going to want to slot them. You can have up to 6 slots on a power, and if a power is good and useful and can take 6 enhancements, you want that. However, it's not worth slotting more than 3 of any enhancement. That's the way they designed the game. And so if a power can only take 1 type of enhancement, there's no reason to put more than 3 in it. And we'll talk about that more later. So this is an enhancement. This is a training enhancement. Training enhancements are the weakest enhancements. The next best are dual origin, or DOs, and then the next best after that are single origin, or SOs. And then you can also invent enhancements. Those are called invention origin, or IOs. And we'll get into all that as the game goes on. But right now all we have is training enhancements. So training enhancements are essentially the weakest. This one will add 7.5% damage to whatever attack we put it into. So you can click it and drag it, and you can see there's 2 powers you can put it into: Thunder Kick, Brawl. It won't go anywhere else because it does damage, and these powers don't do damage. So I'm going to put it here in Brawl, and I'm going to hold it over here. You can see the average base value damage of Brawl is 3.97 damage per hit. Right now, its value is 3.97 because we haven't done anything to it. If we add this enhancement, we replace what's here, which is nothing, with this enhancement, we'll go up to 4.26 damage. Okay, so we'll click that, and now we're doing 7.5% more damage. So the way this works on damage on anything, training enhancements do a certain amount. Dual origin enhancements are about twice as good as a trainer, and single origin are about twice as good as a dual origin. So if we look at the damage, this one's a level below us, so it's yellow, right? So if it's your level, it's white. If it's above your level, it's green, and if it's below your level, it's yellow. You can only use enhancements that are between plus and minus 3 levels to you. So if I'm level 2, I can't use anything above a level 5. If I was level 5, I wouldn't be able to use anything below a 2 or above an 8. The more above you they are, the better the percent they give you, and the further below you they are, the weaker. So this one's a little below us. It's a 7.5%. If we had a level 2 damage enhancement, it would do about 8% better damage. A dual origin enhancement of our level would do about 16% better damage, and a single origin enhancement does 33% better damage. So you can see that a single origin enhancement is way better than a training enhancement. But we won't get single origin until level 22. Alright, so now we're going to go back to our contact, now that we've learned about enhancements, and we're going to talk to him. And he gave us another enhancement, and he's introducing us to probably one of the most important, I would argue almost the most important NPC in the game. And I'll talk about him in a minute. But first we got another enhancement, and now I'm going to show you, you can also combine enhancements, right? So if they're the same type, you can combine them, and it'll become one better than the highest level of the 2 you combine. So this is a 1, and this is a 1. 1 better than 1 is 2, but it doesn't become a level 2 enhancement, it becomes a level 1 plus. and the most you can do is get 2 pluses. So if we found another one, we could get a 1++, which would be a level 3 enhancement, but then we couldn't do any more combining. So now, as you can see, it's 8.3%. So a training enhancement of your level that does damage increase is 8.3% improvement to damage. Okay, so now we're going to run to what I just said was the most important NPC in the game, and I'll explain why he's the most important. So this is Coyote, and I'm going to zoom in here. This is Coyote, and let's go ahead and click on About This Contact. So, Matthew Bragg is Coyote's secret ID. Matthew Bragg was a real person. He was a person on the City of Heroes forums before beta, under the forum name Coyote, spelled a little differently. He was in the closed beta. He was in the open beta. He was on the forums a lot, and he was really well liked. He was a super nice guy. And unfortunately, right around the time the game launched, Matthew Bragg passed away, the real person. And so what Statesman, Jack Emmerich, and Positron and the other developers decided to do was to put a character in the game named after Matthew Bragg's forum identity, Coyote. So this character is a memorial to a real person who passed away right as this game was launched. And they put him in the tutorial, and since when you get a hero you have to go through this tutorial until very recently, nearly every player who's ever played City of Heroes has met Coyote, and I think that's actually quite touching. So anyway, Coyote, my favorite NPC, says to us that he has been doing some digging and found out there's an abandoned office where these thugs are being given what they thought was a common street drug. It's actually a Richti mutation drug, and that's trouble. As you know, the Richti have been a constant nuisance since their failed invasion last year. I spoke with Dr. Miller, and he can create a cure, but you've got to get the information off of the computer, and he sent in another hero named Flower Knight, and we've got to find her because he hasn't heard from her and he thinks she's in trouble. So we accept the mission, and that's going to take us over here. But before we do that, I want to mention the Richti. What you'll see as you look around town, on the edges of each area, each zone, you'll see these laser sort of force field walls. These are called war walls. What happened is the Richti are space aliens who invaded the planet, and they invaded Paragon City. And Statesman and the other superheroes like Positron and War Witch defended it. And what the city decided to do was put up these walls in between each district to contain the attack. So if the Richti attack here, they'd have to get through the war walls to go somewhere else, and it would give the superheroes time to respond. Now, of course, that's the story reason why they have the walls. The real reason is they were trying to keep the servers separated by zone so that players weren't bleeding over into different zones and causing lag. But it was a pretty cool story-based reason why they did this, and I actually kind of like the war walls. It makes me feel like I'm in City of Heroes when I see them. Alright, so now we are running down the street. As you can see, our map is filling in here. And this is our waypoint, and you can see it right there. And so this is going to be our first instanced mission. So the way City of Heroes does this is you go into a mission. This mission is private. So even if you see other people going in and out of the door, they're going into their own mission, not yours. We're going to go in, and this mission is instanced. And the way these missions work, they are scaled to two things: your level and the number of people in your team. So we are solo level 2, so this is going to be a level 2 mission tailored to a solo character, which means we should mostly see level 2 enemies, no more than 3 at a time. And we might see some level 2 we should see level 2s, we might see some 3s, we might see some 1s, but you're mostly going to see level 2s. And so this is really nice. You can also change that. Over here where it says set notoriety, you can adjust the level from -1 to +4, depending on how much difficulty you want. You can tell it to assume your team size is anything from 1 to 8, even when you're by yourself. You can tell it whether you want to have bosses in solo instances. I do. And you can tell it whether you want to have arch-villains in solo instances. I do not, because they're a pain in the neck. That doesn't affect team missions, but it affects solo ones. And it tells you right here, level +0 × 0, no AV. So this is telling you how they set it up. There's obviously no archvillains in a tutorial mission. So we go inside. Hopefully this will work. One of the problems they've been having on these private servers is instance missions, but this seems to be okay. So there's Flower Knight, right? And we can see she's a boss level. She's in the ally faction and she's level 2. These guys are contaminated. That's a contaminated leader. He's contaminated and he's a minion and he's level 2. So being white con and a minion means that we can easily take 2 of them, or 3, or probably even 4. I'm not going to bother to put my defenses on because these guys will be easy. So I'm going to attack. And beat him up. Oops, I missed. It's one of the things that's actually different about City of Heroes compared to a lot of other games. I played a lot of MMOs recently where like you basically can't miss. They can't miss you and you can't miss them. In City of Heroes you can. You have a base chance of 75% to hit an even level, so a level 2 for us, minion. You have lower chances to hit lieutenants, even lower chances to hit bosses. You have a higher chance to hit them if they're blue and higher if they're green. A white con minion has a 50% chance to hit you. A yellow con minion has like a 67% chance. A lieutenant has like a 67% chance. A boss has like a 75% chance. So the rank and the level compared to you determines how easy it is to hit and how easy it is for them to hit you. So we have a clue. The clue says Flower Knight has joined me and she's going to help us. So this will be easy because they're lower level than us and she's helping us. So here are some contaminated thugs who are dancing around and we're going to start beating them up. And Flower Knight, you can see, has a bow and arrow, if you can see that. So she's going to start shooting her bow and arrow at them. There she goes. She just shot that guy. So we beat up those guys. Are there any others? We have to defeat every thug in here because it says find the formula and defeat all thugs. So just finding the formula is not enough. This is probably where the formula is. These glowing objects that hum are interactables, and we're searching the computer. And we got a clue. And the clue says we've got the formula. So now we'll check in here. There's nobody in here. So then our last thing to do is to go upstairs, and then we will finish up this tutorial, and I will end this episode. Whoops, I went the wrong way. Okay. These guys are also level 1. So this will be real easy, especially with Flower helping us. And we are now complete. That mission complete sound, and then here you can see the reward. We gained 100 experience. So if you look here, we gained 40 experience, 80 experience, and so forth just from the missions. We were not gaining experience for individual thugs because this is the tutorial, so it was only giving mission experience. I want to point out too, if we take a look, Flower Knight doesn't look too different from me. She's got the similar hairstyle and same pants. Alright. Now we can exit the mission. There's 2 instances, and this concerns me a little bit because the last time this happened, so normally with instances, so when the zone is too full, it just spawns a second version of the zone, a third, a fourth. Usually it numbers them, 1, 2, 3, 4. Here it's not numbered, so that concerns me a little bit, but we'll try. And it seems like it's working. Several times I've gotten errors when I've tried to do this, but it seems like we're good. So now we're going to go back to Coyote, right? Task complete, return to this contact, right? We don't have any missions, or I guess we do. Return to contact. And let's get him on the map here. There we go. 398 yards away. Oh, the other thing I want to point out here, you see how there's a red outline here? That's where the danger zone is. That's where all the contaminated are. Everywhere else is safe. I haven't seen anybody chatting on the Sunrise channel. I wonder if anyone's on. Alright, so now we're going to go back to Coyote. And now if you wanted to get the contaminated badge, what we would do is we would run up here and just beat up contaminated until we get to 100. They don't show a progress bar. I feel like there used to be progress bars. So we have 2 badges so far. This is just stuff everybody gets. VIP is what they used to give you when you were a subscriber, and Passport is what European players got when they switched from a US to a European server. If you click on one of these, you can set it as your badge title, and then you'll see it, or other people will see it over your name. Okay. So we'll click him, and now we will go to Atlas Park. And now we're entering the main part of the game and not the tutorial. And this is the point where I will stop this video and start another one probably. And it looks like we might get stuck. Nope, we're here. Alright, so we're in Atlas Plaza, and I'm going to move off to the side here. As you can see, there's more police drones here, again, to protect the newbies. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed it, and I will be back in the next episode with our adventures in Atlas Park.